Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this briefing. My name is Illegitimate. I'm the spokesperson at the Chinese mission. As you already know, China today assumes the Security Council presidency for the month of May. We are very delighted to invite His Excellency Ambassador Fu Song, permanent representative of China to the UN, to deliver with you the program of work of the Security Council. After that, we will open questions for the floor. Ambassador Fu is joined by Mr. Teng Fei, the political coordinator at the Chinese mission. Now, Ambassador Fu, the floor.
Dear friends from the press, good morning or good afternoon. Now it is 5 minutes to 12. And welcome to this briefing on China's presidency of the Security Council for the month of May. It is a great honor for China to assume the presidency of the Security Council, and we will discharge our duties with a strong sense of responsibility and a constructive approach. We are committed to promoting solidarity and the cooperation of the Council so that it will play a positive role in safeguarding international peace and security. This morning, the Council has adopted the program of work for May, and now I'm pleased to brief you on our plans and the priorities for the months ahead. Our first priority is to revitalize the authority of the UN Charter and the role of the United Nations. The UN stands as a defining achievement of the victory in the world anti-fascist war. It is a peace endeavor in which nations across the world have invested tremendous efforts. The purposes and principles of the UN Charter provide the fundamental guidance for international relations and form the cornerstone of the post-war international order. In recent years, we are witnessing growing turbulence in the international landscape. Conflicts are increasing, divisions are widening, and the multilateral system, along with international law, is under considerable strain. All these happened not because the UN is outdated or the UN has failed. On the contrary, it is because the purposes and the principles of the Charter are not effectively upheld, and the UN-centered international system is not earnestly maintained. The international community must take urgent actions to uphold the authority of the Charter and strengthen the role of the United Nations so as to prevent our world from relapsing into the law of the jungle, and as the Charter puts it, to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war. In this context, China will convene a high-level open debate on May the 26th under the theme of upholding the purposes and the principles of the UN Charter and strengthening the UN-centered international system. This open debate will be presided over by His Excellency Mr. Wang Yi, member of the Political Bureau of the CPC Central Committee and the Minister of Foreign Affairs of China. We hope this meeting will offer an opportunity for countries to jointly reaffirm their commitment to the Charter's purposes and principles, revitalizing the central role of the UN in the international system, and support this organization in keeping pace with time so that it can better address global challenges and build a better world. Our second priority is to advance the political settlement of the Middle East issue. This part of the world is where most of the hotspot issues happen, and it has always been high on the Council's agenda. In May, the Security Council will hold regular briefings on the Middle East, on Syria, on Lebanon. Given the continued tensions and their spillover effects on regional stability and the global economy, the Council must remain seized of the developments. We must urge the relevant parties to exercise calm and restraint, bring an end to the fighting, resolve disputes through diplomatic means, and work towards de-escalation. The Palestinian question remains at the heart of the Middle East issue. The situation in Gaza and the West Bank remains deeply concerning, and the foundation of the two-state solution is being eroded. The Security Council must urge the relevant parties, Israel in particular, to fully observe the Gaza ceasefire agreement, ensure humanitarian access, stop settlement activities, and work to revitalize the prospect of the two-state solution. Regarding Lebanon, the situation remains very volatile and fragile. I want to emphasize that attacks on civilians and the UN peacekeepers are unacceptable. The Security Council must send a clear message in support of Lebanon's sovereignty, security, and territorial integrity. We must promote a cessation of hostilities and support the Lebanese government in stabilizing the domestic situation and guaranteeing people's basic livelihood. On Syria, the country is at a critical juncture for political reconciliation, rebuilding, and development. The Security Council should support Syria in maintaining national stability, advancing political transition, improving people's well-being, and taking more forceful measures to eliminate the threat of terrorism. Our third priority will be the stability and the development of African countries. Hotspot issues on this continent also have always been high on the Council's agenda. This month, the Security Council will hold regular briefings on UNISFA, on ICC Libya, and take actions on the monitoring of arms embargo on the high seas off the coast of Libya, as well as sanctions related to South Sudan. During China's presidency, the Council will maintain its focus on Africa and support efforts in resolving African issues in African ways. We encourage dialogue and consultation among relevant parties to ease tensions and resolve disputes. At the same time, we call on the international community to scale up humanitarian and development support to help the countries concerned strengthen their capacity for self-driven development and address the root causes of conflict. This month, the Security Council will also hold its annual open debate on the protection of civilians in armed conflict. In light of ongoing conflicts around the world, we hope this meeting will help revitalize the authority of international law, facilitate the end of armed conflict, strengthen humanitarian efforts, and provide better protection for civilians who are caught in conflicts. In addition, this month, the Council will hold a debate on Bosnia-Herzegovina. We hope the relevant discussion will help the parties conduct constructive dialogue and seek an inclusive solution for safeguarding political and social stability. The Council will also hold consultations on the 1718 Committee, and we will remain attentive to the development of other issues and stand ready to act as needed. Last but not the least, for China's presidency, we will focus on improving the work of the Council. China believes that solidarity and cooperation are essential to the effective work of the Security Council, and the rotating president has a special role in making that happen. We commend the work done by Bahrain as the president last month. Now that the baton is in our hand, we will continue to uphold fairness and transparency in the Council's work, and we will conduct broad engagement and close coordination and communication on all agenda items and strive for the broadest possible consensus. We will remain action-oriented, focusing on key issues and responding to the expectations of the international community with concrete actions. We will also, as appropriate, invite civil society representatives to contribute their perspectives. And of course, we will maintain close communication with the media to ensure transparency of the Council's work. That's the end of my opening remarks. Now I'm ready to take questions.
Thank you, Ambassador Fu, for your thorough introduction. Now we'll get to the Q&A session. Before we start, we just remind that please just introduce yourself and the organization you represent. And we will follow tradition and give the first question to the anchor. Edith, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. On behalf of the United Nations Correspondents Association for doing this briefing. You mentioned transparency. We hope that you will come and speak to us every day that the Council meets.
I'll try my best.
My name is Edith Lederer from the Associated Press. My question is, obviously one of the major issues which the Security Council has been touching on, trying to deal with, is the war in Iran and the current ceasefire. Can you tell us, what is China's role in ceasefire negotiations? How active has it been? And what is China prepared to do to get the Strait of Hormuz open?
Thank you. Thank you for the question. Let me first say that I think before explaining China's role in this, we need to be very clear that this situation, the root cause of this situation, is the illegitimate war by the U.S. and Israel against Iran. And this war has wrought tremendous sufferings in Iran for the Iranian people and the neighboring countries. And it has, and its ramification runs far and wide. And in particular, the close of Hormuz, and is actually wreaking havoc in the oil market and in the economy of the entire world, in particular in the global south. So China's view is that we need to open the Strait of Hormuz as quickly as possible, and that actually applies to both sides. Iran needs to lift its restrictions on the Strait of Hormuz, and the U.S. need to lift its naval blockade. And I think that is something that we want to say. And in our view, the most urgent issue is to keep the ceasefire. And the ceasefire need to last, and there has to be a good faith negotiation between the two sides. Frankly speaking, we are very concerned about some of the remarks we have been hearing recently about this ceasefire being temporary, about the need to initiate another round of attack. I think the international community should be mobilized and raise our voices against the resumption of fighting in that part of the world. And yeah, China's role, sorry. China's role, yes. Indeed, China has been advocating for peace, and we are talking to all sides. And our foreign minister has been on the phone almost constantly, and we are also fully behind and support the efforts of Pakistan in facilitating and mediating between the parties. We do hope that these efforts can give positive results. Thank you.
Binzhao, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. My name is Yun Zhao Pan from Xinhua News Agency. Thank you for doing this briefing, and congratulations to you on assuming the presidency of the Security Council. While the conflict between Palestine and Israel continues, the Security Council's attention seems to have decreased because much of the attention has diverted to the situation surrounding Iran. So my question is, as the president of the Security Council for May, does China has any plan to take any concrete actions to push forward the solution of the Palestinian issue? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Indeed, the Palestinian issue lies at the very heart of the Middle East issue, and it's also the source of the ongoing tensions in the region. So this question should not be neglected. So as a rotating president of the Security Council, we'll make every effort to make sure that the Palestinian issue is high on the agenda of the Security Council. And concerning the situation, at present, the situation on the ground is deeply concerning. In Gaza, we are seeing continued bombardment and attacks, and the humanitarian crisis that keeps worsening. We have read in the media the material for shelter is being blocked by the Israelis, and also in the West Bank, tensions are also high, and these tensions are marked by expanding settlements and increasing settlers' violence. We are very concerned about the situation there. And so the pressing task right now is to consolidate the ceasefire and to protect civilian lives and ease tension in the West Bank. For decades, repeated cycles of conflict between Palestine and Israel have caused too much suffering to people on both sides and to the wider region. The denial of the Palestinian people's legitimate national rights is the greatest injustice of our times. This must stop. And for that to happen, we need to stick to the two-state solution as the only viable path forward. Any arrangement or new mechanism, we are talking about border peace and other mechanisms, any new mechanism should reinforce rather than undermine the prospect of the two-state solution. So China will place the Palestinian question high on the Security Council's agenda, and together with other Council members, we will make active efforts to advance a comprehensive, just, and a lasting solution to the Palestinian question, to achieve the peaceful coexistence between Palestine and Israel, and to realize lasting peace and stability in the Middle East. And in that connection, I may take this opportunity to share with you that according to the Security Council Resolution 2803, the border peace is required to come up with the original report by mid-May. So we are hoping that they can come up with that report. If that happens, some members of the Security Council have said that there can be a hearing or briefing at the Security Council to discuss that report, because according to the 2803, the Security Council has the mandate to supervise and to oversee and monitor the activities of BOP. So we hope that we can have that briefing.
Damilola? Yeah.
Thank you. Could you talk a little bit more on what China is doing regarding what China? I know you spoke about it, but if you could talk a little bit more on the Strait of Hormuz and oops, sorry. Thank you. Hi, Damilola from Pass Blue. If you could talk a little bit more on the Strait of Hormuz and on the SG selection race. Thank you.
The Strait of Hormuz, I think, as I said, Now the most pressing issue is to make sure the ceasefire continues and that the two sides resume the negotiations in good faith, and to make sure that the ground is laid for the reopening of Hormuz. And as I said, that requires both sides, both Iran and the United States, to take actions or to take measures to stop some of their current actions. And on the selection of Secretary General, indeed, that is one of the most consequential issues of the latter part of the year for all the membership of the United Nations. And I think the process has started. We have had this interactive dialogue by the 4 candidates. And yeah, there may be more candidates coming out. And as far as the Security Council is concerned, under our presidency, we will try to come up with a modality for the selection of the Security Council within, for the selection of the SC within the framework of the Security Council. That means whether we're going to have also hearings among the members of the Security Council, and then the modalities for the straw poll and things like that. So we will initiate this consultation among the members of the Security Council very early on in our presidency. And we hope that during our presidency, some modality can be agreed upon by the members of the Security Council, so as the work can really start in earnest in June or July.
Madam Xu Tao.
Thank you. This is Tao Xu with China Central Television. Mr. Ambassador, we have noted that the Security Council will hold a high-level open debate on upholding the UN Charter and strengthening the UN-centered international system this month. So could you share a bit more about the thinking behind this meeting and what key issues you hope will be addressed? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that question. That gives me an opportunity to further elaborate on our thinking behind our signature event. This is going to be the only signature event we are going to have, and of course it is the highest priority for our mission. And the reason we are proposing this event is as follows: that in our view, as we all know, that the United Nations was born out of the ashes of the 2 world wars, and stands as a major victorious outcome of the world anti-fascist war. Its charter embodies humanity's shared aspiration for peace and development, and provides the fundamental guidance for managing international relations. So over the past 8 decades, the UN, the international system centered around it, and the international order based on international law have made indispensable contributions to world peace and development. Today, however, this architecture is facing serious challenges. There are more than 60 armed conflicts taking place as we speak across the world, the highest number since the end of the World War II. Trust among major countries is lacking, raising the risk of dangerous miscalculations. I think the Iran war is the biggest example of this. The rise of unilateralism, power politics, and some bullying practice by certain powers are dealing heavy blows to the rule of law in the international affairs. And as momentum for multilateral cooperation falters, deficits in global governance continues to widen. So in the face of these pressing challenges, some choose to question or even deny the role of the UN and its charter. We heard so much criticism against the UN, and also the UN is now faced with the danger of being marginalized. So in our view, this will only bring us back to a world where might makes right. So we do believe that we must bear in mind that what we have today have not come by easily and should not be taken for granted. The victory of the world anti-fascist war must be cherished. The UN-centered international system must be upheld. The international order underpinned by the international law must be defended, and the basic norms of international relations, grounded in the purposes and the principles of the UN Charter, must be safeguarded. And actually, this has a lot to do with what kind of Secretary General we are going to select for the next 5 or 10 years. It is in this context that China has proposed this open debate. We hope that through the discussion, member states will renew their commitment to the purposes and the principles of the UN Charter, revitalize the central role of the UN in the international system, and redouble our efforts to jointly promote world peace and development. So these are the basic considerations behind our proposition that we need to have a high-level open debate on how to uphold the UN Charter and support the role of the UN at the center of the international order. Thank you.
Bisan?
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. Bisan Abu Quaik with Al Jazeera Arabic. So President Trump has an upcoming visit to China as of now. How does this war, and if the Strait of Hormuz, which you call among other countries and parties across the world to reopen the strait, how does, if it continues to be closed, how will this overshadow and complicate conversations that President Trump will have in China when he visits Beijing?
I'm sure if the Hormuz is still closed by the time President Trump goes to China, this issue will be high on the agenda of the bilateral talk. And of course, the bilateral relationship between China and the U.S. goes far beyond the issue of Hormuz. And I think it is in the interest of both countries and both peoples. And I may say for the entire world, of the people of the entire world, that China and the U.S. maintain steady and sound and sustainable relationship. And yes, in our belief, if the two sides can show mutual respect and can stick to the principle of peaceful coexistence and the win-win cooperation, this bilateral relationship can prosper. And as we often say, that the world is big enough to accommodate both China and the United States. It doesn't have to be a zero-sum game between the two countries. So the two sides, as far as I know, now here in New York, as far as I know, the two sides are making preparations for this historic visit. And we do hope that this visit will materialize. Also here, by extension, I want to say that here at the United Nations, we do believe that China and the U.S. have a lot to work on, and there is broad space for us to cooperate. And we are both the permanent members of the Security Council. We are both the victorious power of the Second World War. And we are both the founding members of the United Nations. So it is incumbent upon both China and the United States to help maintain the international order and to support the role of the UN. And as the biggest financial contributors of the organization, and there are a lot of commonalities in the positions in how the UN is run. Of course, I also hasten to add that the UN is for all member states. So no big power should adopt this approach that the interest of that big country should be put above the interest of the entire membership. But there are things that we do believe that China and U.S. can work together.
Okay. I think Ying Qian?
Yes, Joseph Klein, Canada Free Press.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
we
Ambassador.
need to give priority to all Chinese media.
Sorry.
Yes. Yes, it's Ying Qian from Hong Kong Phoenix TV. My question is about Iran as well. So the U.S. is asking China to play a bigger role on Iran, and but meanwhile, U.S. is sanctioning Chinese oil companies and shipping companies for supporting Iran. So what's your response on that? And like this crisis has been spilled over around the region on the oil market and on food. So how, as the president of the Security Council, how would you prevent this spillover of the crisis?
Yes, first on the sanction of Chinese ships, and that's why we do believe it is important that both sides, both Iran and the U.S., lift their embargoes and the restrictions on the access to the Strait of Hormuz. And we don't believe that it's fair to sanction Chinese ships or companies, and it is illegitimate. And on how to alleviate the difficulties of the global south, let me say this: we support the Secretary General's initiative and the role of the Secretariat and Mr. Arnold, that's his name, and we have a personal envoy, and also Mr. Da Silva, right? And they are, in my understanding, they are working behind the scenes very busily and traveling the region and hoping to have some sort of a mechanism that can allow what is most needed, that have a direct bearing on the humanitarian concerns of countries, and also in the fertilizer and everything else that can alleviate the sufferings of countries, in particular the global south, that some kind of arrangement can come out of their efforts.
Okay, Christine?
Well, you just touched on my question about support for the SG's initiative. So I'll take it to the next level in terms of realistically what the Security Council can do to open up the Strait of Hormuz and the humanitarian corridor there.
So you're asking what kind, or Security Council? Yeah, that is.
I'm sorry. Where is it that the U.S. And China can cooperate realistically? Do you think?
Well, actually, for us, we don't want to see this Strait of Hormuz open. And as I said, it requires both sides, Iran and the U.S., to heed the appeals of the international community. And we'll try our best to work on our American friends. How much influence we can have, I'm not sure. But well, you see what the U.S. officials have been saying. That's why I said some of the remarks were quite worrying and concerning. They keep talking about this ceasefire being temporary, and there might be the resumption of new military strikes. If that happens, then everything that we're talking about, the opening of the strait and the passage of the humanitarian cargoes and all these things, may be put into a jeopardy. So, well, the Security Council can only do what it can do with the people, and we will continue to work on the relevant countries. We do hope that peace can prevail, and we do hope that an agreement between the two sides can reach. That's why I emphasize the two sides need to engage in good faith negotiation so as to find a lasting solution. Thank you.
Alexei?
Thank you so much, Ambassador. Alexei with Russia's RIA Novosti News Agency, and the best of luck for this busy month. I have a follow-up on the selection on the next Secretary General. Does China have a preferred candidate among the four?
If we had, I would not tell you. But we do have some criteria for the next SG. We do believe that the UN is at a very critical juncture. We need a strong SG who is really committed to multilateralism, to enhancing the role of the UN, and not to be too much aligned to the policies of one single superpower. And yes, we do need someone who can stand up for for principle. And also we want to see someone who actually will support the 3 pillars of the United Nations, peace and security, development and human rights. In particular, the development sector should not be neglected. And although it is a cliche, but I want to repeat this, without development you cannot have sustainable peace. I think that is a truism that needs repeating. And yes, we want to see, we are supportive of the geographical rotation. And also we also be happy to see a lady SG, female SG. It has been 80 years, and so if we can have a female SG, China will be very happy to see.
Okay, I'm sure you have many more questions to ask, but we have already raised about 10 questions. And you know that today is really busy day for the ambassador, and there will another event following the conference. Therefore, another last 2 questions. I think Fanush. Yeah.
Thank you, Ambassador. Farnoosh Shamiri with the Associated Press. Appreciate you doing this. You mentioned that you have similar concerns that the U.S. has with the UN about reform, but that you really want to underscore how important the institution is and you support it. Can you talk a little bit about how China has jumped in to fill the gaps that the U.S. is leaving, especially in development, humanitarian aid? Is there a future where China is the biggest donor to the UN? And is that what you guys are working towards?
Well, let me say this. China is already the de facto #1 financial contributor to the regular budget, even though in nominal terms the U.S. is #1, but they're not paying. So China is already a de facto #1. And secondly, China has been supporting the UN development pillar for decades. It's not that the U.S. is withdrawing, that China is filling the gap. No, that is not true. We have been supporting the UN, and a lot of funds have been set up to support the UN. And we are doing, you don't need me to tell you that China has been supporting the global South countries in their development. I think you can go to each and every African country, you will see and how much China has helped the African countries to develop their economies and in terms of the technologies. And so, but China is not filling up. But if the U.S. withdraws, of course other countries need to step up. And China will be happy to step up. Let me make that point clear. And so it's for the U.S. to decide. And we do believe, as I said, this is not a zero-sum game between China and the U.S. We want to contribute more to the UN. We also want the United States to contribute more to the UN. In the same token, we want the European countries to continue their support. Actually, I sometimes feel sad that some of the European countries are also reducing their assistance, aid assistance and development assistance. That is something that we don't think is correct, but you can rest assured China will continue our support for the UN, will continue to support our brothers and sisters in the global South, and as much as we can, as China grows, the ability of China to help these countries will also grow, and we'll continue to do that.
Okay, I think that we should leave for the backside, please. Yeah.
Thank you, Nabil Abisab, Al Arabi TV station. Mr. Ambassador, you mentioned Lebanon. I would like to ask you about your position on the situation in southern Lebanon after the end or expiration of the UNIFIL's mandate. Yeah. What's your position on this? Yeah. And also, we have seen multiple exchange of views between China and the U.S. around the Security Council table on the cooperation, military cooperation with Iran. Could you please explain what's your position on the military cooperation between China and Iran? Thank you.
First, on Lebanon, on the UNIFIL, indeed, we are very concerned about what's happening in Lebanon. Actually, people say that there is no ceasefire. There's even a new term, which is lesser fire. So it's not a real ceasefire. We do want to see a real ceasefire prevail, and I think it is incumbent on Israel to stop its bombardment of Lebanon. And in terms of the UNIFIL, yes, we do believe that it is we should revisit the decision actually to withdraw the UNIFIL. And actually, the other day I had a discussion with the Secretary General. We know that the Secretariat is thinking about some a review and a plan as to, according to the resolution, the resolution of 2790, the Secretariat is going to come up in June with options for the future of the implementation of 1701. So I know that the Secretariat is working on this, and I think at least the view of the overwhelming majority of the Security Council is that this is not the time to really to withdraw the UNIFIL out of that part of the country, and we'll be waiting for the report from the Secretariat before we take our position. Oh, Iran, yes. Well, there is no military cooperation between China and Iran. And we know that some of the allegations from some of the U.S. officials, they were false. But we are very sympathetic to what the Iranian people are enduring, which actually as I said, the illegitimate war that is imposed on the people. And we do hope that we're trying our best to see to an end to the fighting, and as much as we can.
Many thanks once again, Ambassador. We just appreciate for your time.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this just concludes today's briefing. Have a good day.